By 1976, Chile's resistance had been wiped out. Kissinger met Pinochet to show his appreciation and deal with certain public relations issues.
On the very same day, he meets with Pinochet in a private meeting, and we have now finally a transcript of that meeting. And he tells Pinochet that I want you to know that I'm going to speak to the OAS General Assembly, and I'm going to talk about human rights. I'm going to say that human rights is very important for the hemisphere. And I'm going to say some things about Chile. But I want you to know that this is not directed at you. We support what you're doing in Chile, and you're our ally.
We discuss important subjects: the problem of development, the problem of human rights, the problem of charter reform, and other subjects of concern to the hemisphere.
Kissinger's green light to Pinochet was extended to the Argentine army. Then the army proceeded to eliminate the terrorist threat. A military junta seized power in March 24, 1976, suspended civil liberties, and its troops occupied the country.
The coup in Argentina in March of 1976 is the most important event in Condor's operations. It opens the door to massive multi-country operations to go against the JCR and to go against other more moderate targets.
The first information we had that came to light publicly about Kissinger giving the green light for the dirty war occurred when we published a memorandum of conversation between Pat Darien, who was Jimmy Carter's human rights advocate within the State Department, and our ambassador down in Buenos Aires at the time, Robert Hill. And Hill was complaining about Kissinger having given the green light to Admiral Gussetti, who was the Argentine foreign minister at the time, in June 1976. And that document said that Kissinger had, in fact, given the Argentines till the end of 1976 to clean up their terrorism problem. And, of course, by the time 1976 came to an end, the Argentine military killing machine had gone so far that even if they wanted to stop what they were doing, which is obviously a doubtful proposition, they weren't able to do so.
De este ejército de hoy, la historia reciente lo enfrentó con la criminal agresión de la subversión. Fue necesario cumplimiento de la misión que la nación le tiene asignada, articular la defensa de la sociedad argentina. Las reglas de esta guerra no convencional, que no buscamos ni provocamos, son distintas.
John Dingis persuaded Lieutenant Colonel Lloyd Gracie to talk about the extent of U.S. involvement with the repression in Argentina.
Come on in, John. How are you?
Hi.
Very good. Good to see you. Oh, I remember that dog.
You remember, he just jumps on you. He's not vicious.
Lloyd was the U.S. Army contact with the Argentine Army group involved in tracking down terrorist suspects.
Describe when you arrived in Argentina and your role.
I was assigned to Argentina as an intelligence advisor to the United States Army. I'm sorry, to the Argentine Army. We, the United States, under the Military Training Assistance Program, would train their officers at various schools here in the United States. They would take that training back to Argentina with them. The idea was that with that new knowledge and with that training, they would, one, buy our equipment, but two, in the way of non-equipment matters, tactics and things, procedures and things like this, they would adopt those. All of this sort of thing.
What was the goal of this kind of intelligence training?
Insert agents into the groups. And now, I was told, well, we'll think about it, or I was told everything but yes, let's do it. Occasionally I was invited to give classes out at the intelligence school, in the intelligence battalion. And
this is Battalion 601.
601.
The 601 Battalion says they were keeping track of the people that they had killed. And the number up until July of 1978 was 22,000 people.
Wow. And I knew they were trigger happy to begin. One night I drove into a post at night. I was lost, and we almost were shot. I mean, it was that close. These guys were trigger happy, but there were cases of where the guerrillas were just shooting these people down in the street and on their way to school, on their way to go shopping with their wives and all of this. These guys were being nailed left and right. It's a lot like, unfortunately, we're seeing in Iraq today. I mean, we don't know who the enemy is, like we had in Vietnam. We didn't know who the enemy was. Well, they were looking at fellow Argentines, and many of them were guerrillas. I felt sorry for them. My sympathies were with the army.
The Argentine anti-terrorist war was designed and carried out as a massive intelligence operation, drawing from lessons learned by other armies in other wars. U.S. Army officers faced the realities of non-conventional warfare in Vietnam for the first time in their history. They had to change the rules of engagement to win an underground war.
It was not War II. It wasn't the Cold War. It wasn't these large military forces we had in Europe. You know, if you're fighting somebody, he's wearing a uniform. You know what his uniform looks like. Well, these guys weren't wearing uniforms. Now, can we flood them with bombs? Sure. Do we know where the bombs will go and which are the bad guys? Look, our ability to find bin Laden is an example. Now, we've spent over a year churning around there. We don't even know whether he's dead or not, whether he's alive. Now, what I'm saying is applying conventional military tools don't answer the kind of war we're in. Rather, it was the kind of war the French had fought in Indochina. So a Colonel Roger Tranquier of the French army, a very distinguished, perceptive guy, wrote a book called La Guerre Moderne, or Modern Warfare. We sat and read it. Riveting. It really was an explanation of the kind of war that was going on.
Ça c'est le livre de Trinquier, La Guerre moderne. Et on voit la date de parution du livre, c'est de 1961. Le colonel Trinquier est un homme aussi qui travaille dans le monde du renseignement, et il écrit son livre juste après la passation qu'il fait de pouvoir entre son régiment et celui de Bijard. La guerre moderne, définition. Depuis la fin de la dernière guerre mondiale, une nouvelle forme de guerre est née, appelée parfois guerre subversive ou guerre révolutionnaire. Elle diffère essentiellement des guerres du passé, en ce sens que la victoire n'est pas attendue uniquement du choc de deux armées sur un champ de bataille. Ce choc qui visait autrefois à anéantir une armée ennemie en une ou plusieurs batailles ne se produit plus. La guerre est maintenant un ensemble d'actions de toute nature, politique, sociale, économique, psychologique, armée, etc., qui visent le renversement du pouvoir établi dans un pays et son remplacement par un autre régime, etc. Il y a une circulation très importante de cette doctrine, la doctrine de la guerre psychologique française. Donc elle a une circulation internationale. Le mot torture, c'est un mot polémique. C'est un mot qui appartient au registre du civil et du militaire lorsqu'il rentre en polémique. Sur le plan technique, il n'y a pas de torture, ça n'existe pas. Sur le plan technique, il y a des interrogatoires. Il y a des interrogatoires plus ou moins poussés, serrés, puissants, forts, bref, il y a toute une hiérarchie. Mais c'est de l'interrogatoire, c'est pas de la torture. Sauf, bien sûr, après ce qu'a dit Massu, après ce qu'a dit Ossarès, où ils ont accepté de faire basculer le mot torture dans une réalité historique.
L'armée française n'a pas utilisé systématiquement la torture, mais des éléments de l'armée française, des éléments responsables de renseignement, ont été amenés à utiliser la torture dans des cas précis et dans des régions où l'action terroriste nécessitait de fortes réactions. Et alors, dans ma région, eh ben, nous avons commencé par les coups, et après l'eau, à parler des gens. Mais, voyez, pourquoi faisons-nous ça? Eh bien, c'était en vue de détecter, merci, une action prévue par les terroristes. Eh bien, le type, on lui mettait de l'eau sur la figure, et quand il perdait le souffle, il disait, maintenant je parle. Merci.
Well, I met Oceres when he was posted to Fort Benning, Georgia.